Bonjour, bienvenue à la Maison symphonique de Montréal. C'est ici demain que l'OSM vous présentera sous la direction de Kent Nagano le concerto pour violon de Brahms. Pour l'occasion, l'OSM recevra le violoniste virtuose Maxim Vengerov, qui est en tournée actuellement à travers le monde. L'OSM se rendra ensuite à New York afin de présenter une nouvelle version de ce concerto, mais cette fois-ci de Carnegie Hall. Maxime est avec moi afin que je puisse lui poser quelques questions en anglais sur la prestation qui aura lieu demain et celle de mercredi. Maxime? Thank you for being with us.
Bonjour, je suis très heureux d'être ici, jouer avec cette magnifique orchestre, cette incroyable salle de concert. Désolé, mon français, c'est pas très bien. J'ai parlé mieux anglais.
On est ravis de voir que vous faites un effort. J'aimerais vous demander, I'd like to ask you first, you're obviously touring right now. You'll be in the United States later this week and in China later on. I'd like to ask you, how difficult is it for a violinist of your level to be playing with different orchestras and to be conducted by different conductors all the time?
I think the biggest challenge when you meet a group of people, whether it is a symphony orchestra, chamber orchestra, or even when you play chamber music, in quartet or quintet or trio, is that the sound, because every musician has different sound production. Like both of us, we speak with a different color, and which is not identical, and yet we have to find harmony when we speak. So you have to be very attentive and to create a little bit different color to merge with other musicians, and of course, especially when you play works like the Brahms Violin Concerto, which primarily it is work that's written for the orchestra. The orchestra starts, the violin continues. Most of the times, the orchestra commands the coloring, and the violinists have to continue. So it's always a great collaboration, especially with such wonderful orchestra as OSM and Kent Nagano, who I've been collaborating now for more than a decade.
You are an excellent conductor yourself. I'd like to ask you, how difficult is it for you to be conducted now that you understand the work of the conductor?
Mm. I think it gives another dimension for an instrumentalist when he or she went into the score and find out more details about how the composer wrote the work, and the details not only that are concerning the violin part, but also the orchestral part. And as the score is written, really you have to draw the coloring, starting from the first tutti. So when the coloring of the first entrance is a little bit different than what you expect, will somehow and must affect the solo player. And so you arrive with one opinion about this work, and the conductor and the orchestra presents you something else. And that's also fun, because you can play Brahms concerto in so many different ways. And that's why it's a little bit like the game of chess. When you play like this, then you turn, and then you have to always collaborate with musicians.
Now, being a conductor, how has that affected your playing as a violinist?
Yes, it gives another dimension when you have conducted symphony by Brahms, Tchaikovsky. In fact, in the end of this year, I'm going to do for the first time my own premiere of Tchaikovsky Evgeny Onegin. I've never conducted opera in my life, so but for me it's quite natural to do all these things, to conduct, play, to teach. I'm a professor at the Menuhin Academy in Switzerland, and to play other different instruments. I played viola and on the baroque violin too, because my predecessors, such as George Enescu, have been also composing, and I'm not composing yet. So there is a way to go. There's music offers you so much, the horizons, and the sky is the limit. So anything you learn in life will affect your violin playing. My violin was the first instrument that I picked up, so it's my mother tongue. And for me, everything I learn after that will always have an impact on how I play and how I approach works.
You touched a little bit on composing. Is that something that you're looking at right now?
For the moment, I'm just composing cadenzas, but that's all. You know, you can't have everything in life at the same time. I think hopefully I'll live long enough to dedicate a few years to composing as well. In my own way, I always tell the students that to play Bach, you have to be able to compose also, to understand the art of fugue, to understand polyphony. So until you have composed, you really not, at least me, I'm not calling myself really a Bach player. So I'm playing few works of this genius composer. But for instance, my teacher, Mstislav Rostropovich, when he was explaining how to play fugue on the cello, he would always sit at the piano and say, well, when you play the fugue on the cello, of course it's incomplete because you can touch 1, 2, maximum 3 voices. But on the piano, on the organ, you can play more. So by playing the fugue on cello or on the violin, you have to imagine the complete fugue. So I think there is a way for me to grow also as a musician, which is exciting. And I'm looking forward also to inspire my younger colleagues to do the same. Because anything we learn in life will somehow add to our musical and also human dimension.
I was wondering, obviously, when we were talking about a player of your level, is there any challenges that are specific to playing the Brahms violin concerto for you tomorrow?
This violin concerto was not exactly written by violinists. Brahms was not a violinist, although his friend of his childhood was Joseph Joachim. And of course, he grew up knowing Joachim all his life and composed a number of works for violin, including 3 sonatas. Now this concerto, written like by many other great composers like Beethoven, be it Elgar or Bartok, they're written, they're compositions for symphony with the violin integrated, sort of a solo instrument. So the challenge for instrumentalists for violin is not only to be able to perform very well his own part, but also to know everything what is going on and to make the relationship and chamber music with the orchestra, and to find the common language, of course, with the conductor, which is integral part of the rehearsal process. And hopefully in the concert we're able to feel so free that we can actually start making music and discover Brahms as if we are performing it for the first time.
I'd like to ask you on a personal level, you've been playing Brahms for all your life, obviously. I'd like to know what special place does Brahms' body of work holds within your performing career?
It's funny, you mentioned that I performed so many times Brahms violin concerto. So I have also performed a million times perhaps the Tchaikovsky violin concerto. Yet when I start playing from the very first notes, for me it is a true discovery. It's never routine because I can always find something else. You can always work with the great materials that the composer writes. You work with the score. Either you turn to the intellectual side, rational side, or emotional, or even spiritual side, or all together. And so there is never an end in discovery. And besides, you always have different orchestras to work with. Probably if you had only one orchestra, then you might meet some limitations. Yet when you go to different cities, meet different people, it's always lovely experience.
You have, anyone who's seen you perform has seen that you have a very physical and intense way of playing. I was wondering, can you take us through what are your emotions as you're playing music to give us such flavor to your performances?
Mhm. I think this expression that both are important, the body and the soul, and this is the um, always a challenge of all human beings on this planet to find the energy together, to harmonize the two. And I guess that's what I'm doing as a musician. I'm trying to bring the two together because I remember for the first time when I heard Violin Concerto by Tchaikovsky, it brought tears to my eyes. I liked it, loved it so much. I grew up with this work, and it was so emotional that I said one day I'm going to have to play it. Yet when I took the decision to play this violin concerto at the age of 13, um, it didn't go so well. It was not immediate success. Sort of, I didn't feel that much in harmony with the work. And I must say, only recently I had a couple of discoveries when I could say, after the performance, "Oh, finally, I think I have done a good performance."
I was wondering whether you're going to obviously be playing here tomorrow night and then in New York City on Wednesday. Given the change of venues, is that going to affect your performance, or in which way are the both performances going to be different?
The performances are always different. Um, Even in one concert hall with one orchestra, with one conductor, with one violin, the performance cannot be identical. As I mentioned, Brahms's work is so multidimensional, and you can tap to emotional, intellectual, or any other sides of these great compositions. So it's always a discovery, and if you are performing sort of every day the same, then you can say, okay, it's enough to play Brahms violin concerto. I should be doing something else. Yet we're here in Montreal in this wonderful Maison symphonique. It's great acoustic, and tomorrow, well, when we go to Carnegie, is going to be a totally different experience because of the hall, because of the Carnegie Hall. It's different. Uh, Now, when I play my violin, I always try to find the focus and the coloring that will eventually get to the people's mind, to the people's souls when they hear the instrument. Uh, Now, when I work in every concert hall is like an instrument as well. So those two instruments plus the orchestra, they have to interact together, and they have to find the harmony, and it's a very very complex work. You have to really concentrate a lot. Your soul has to be there. You have to be open, and it's not that you've rehearsed and you've got it. No, rehearsals are just to get to know each other, to play through the work, to work on it in details. The actual work and the concert, the discoveries will be with the concert hall because the people change the acoustic. Even the empty concert hall is different acoustic from the evening. So your first rehearsal performance is going to be in the evening, and that is why it's a lot of work, especially the first minute is a big challenge.
One last question before I let you go. I'd like to know what your future projects are. Obviously, you're touring right now. Where will we be able to listen to you, either in person or in record form, either conducting or playing in the near future?
Well, last year I've done about 9 or 10 intercontinental flights. So it was the schedule was pretty much crazy. I've been almost on all continents, uh, excluding Africa. Uh, I will go next to China after Carnegie Hall. This is very exciting project. I'm Maestro Yu Long and Beijing China Philharmonic have commissioned a wonderful work for violin and orchestra by Chinese composer Chen Chigang, which is a marvelous work written for violin and orchestra. I think it's going to be a very exciting time because it's always incredibly challenging and so important to premiere new works. And then later we'll be performing it, hopefully, also in Canada, United States, and Europe, and Australia. After that, I have some concerts in Europe, Australia. Then I'm doing the opera, Evgeny Onegin, Tchaikovsky. For the first time in my life, I'm doing opera, so something new for me. And then the next year will include recitals, chamber music, a lot of orchestra appearances, and a lot of teaching too. Teaching is integral part of my professional life. I'm teaching at the Menuhin Academy in Geneva, in Switzerland, and I love doing that because you not only teach and give your share your views and opinion about the music, but also you learn so much. So it's an exchange, very inspiring one.
Well, thank you for the time you took to talk to us. It's been an honor. Le concerto pour violon de Brahms est présenté demain soir à 20h à la Maison symphonique. Des billets sont encore disponibles. Vous pouvez aussi voir le concerto si vous êtes à New York mercredi soir. Merci d'avoir été des nôtres. À une prochaine fois.